If you've been curious to know one of the most powerful, simple tools that help us have a successful relationship, this is the podcast for you. Hey, we're Brit and Chris Carmichael, and you're listening to the Elevated Life Podcast. Throughout the 13 years we've been together, we've never ceased in our endless quest to better ourselves.
We've studied top experts, philosophers, and gurus. After years of personal self-experimentation, we found the tools for shifting your beliefs, moving through fears, and developing a positive mindset.
If you're ready for a breakthrough, then you're in the right place, because we're here to empower you to take control of your life with simple mindset shifts that create radical transformation.
We'll be diving into topics like personal growth, health, philosophy, spirituality, relationships, success, and mindfulness.
So create some space for yourself and get comfy. It's time to become the badass you were born to be. All right, Carmichael, let's talk relationships. This is something that you've been saying to me for so many years lately is, we're going to be known for teaching relationships. And I understand what you've been talking about and I know what you're saying, but it's just so funny how the universe brings it all full circle. And recently at the Hair Love Retreat, it was very clear that it was time for us to share our secrets on how we have such a successful relationship and how it was total shit in the beginning, and how there are simple tools and techniques to overcome the communication barrier or the pain of the past, or, getting on the same page is what we like to call it. So I think to start this off, tell me, I feel like we need to rewind it back. I'm we just talk about it right now, but I feel like let's rewind it back all the way. I'm thinking of the time you said to me, I never thought marriage or love was possible until I met your grandparents.
Yeah, I think that the idea that we have from love, or that most of us have from love and relationships, comes from movies. And in my life, my parents had been married and divorced lots of times, a bunch. So they'd failed at those kind of relationships. And so based on what I saw growing up, I thought, you know what? Maybe that's not as possible. Maybe that's a gimmick, and maybe that's just something that marketing companies use to get you to buy
freaking Hallmark.
Get you to buy better rings, or get you to buy bigger venues or veils or dresses or whatever it is, because there's a lot of money to be made in the wedding industry. I mean, it is a huge, the event space is a really big industry. And so I in my mind, I had it that no way, that's not going to happen for me. So I thought for forever that I was going to be a bachelor. And, that's how I felt when we met. I mean, I told you, I was I'm not interested in getting married. I've always tried to be just straightforward, honest about things and just come out and say it, because when you're going to enter into a relationship with somebody, whether that's a friend or someone who's going to be your lover, or, you're thinking long term, you have to always be setting up the expectations. It's one of the most important things. It's important if you're in business. It's important if you have kids. Everything needs to know the boundaries. And the sooner that you get those expectations out in the open, the more the other person can start to understand you. Because otherwise, they don't have the same mental stuff that you do. We haven't gone through the same experiences. We don't necessarily have all the exact same needs, or at least not in the same way. And so if you don't have the expectations out in front, your partner can never deliver them to you.
And what I'm also learning in working with my high-level coaching clients is that they've got the boundaries down. That's not the problem. That's the first step, right? But once they get the boundaries, the problem that we're finding is that there's no consequence to when people cross the boundary. And so that's, that's not really meant for this conversation, but you brought that up and I just feel hey, people are here to learn some wisdom. So let's just drop that in there too. But when it comes to relationships, I made my, piece very clear in the beginning when we met. You said, I'm not getting married and I'm not having children. I said, great. We're not going to have kids. Oh, cool. You had a vasectomy? Fuck yeah. But we are going to get married. And I proposed to you 2 freaking times with the ring on the knee in a really beautiful romantic spot and said some really nice things. And you said, what did you say? Tell them what you said.
No.
No.
Straight out, no.
But tell them what you said on the second one.
Maybe.
And I knew I was in.
I gave you, you put your foot in the door.
Oh,
you got 1 foot in.
I just needed a fingernail in the door.
Well, it's because, I didn't, it's the same thing. I didn't think it was possible. And so I didn't want to like lead you down and have you think it was going to be this thing that we weren't ready for it. I mean, we weren't really ready for some sort of big commitment. Marriage to some people is just a signature on a piece of paper. But I think that when you sort of look more at a bond, look at vows and look at what those things kind of mean and how you're presenting yourself to the other person, and it can be really powerful and it can be really moving. And I think as a man, I didn't understand that. I didn't get that idea. I didn't know that it would be more. I feel like, okay, great, we're going to be in the same relationship, but now we're just going to call ourselves married and we're going to wear rings and that's going to be the whole thing. And it wasn't. I mean, I think it changed a lot of things, strangely enough. I guess the ritual of marriage is something that can be extremely powerful.
I definitely feel that way. I think I got magical cooking powers.
Oh my gosh. Britt couldn't cook. She could cook one meal. There's one meal that she can make that her dad made a lot, and cowboy breakfast. And I feel like that was the only meal you can make. When we met, Britt could not make, she could screw up cereal. I mean, it was so bad. I'm like, oh my gosh, she's going to be able to cook. Nope, that was not a thing. I was like, well, at least I semi know how. We can start from there. But yeah, you've gotten, so good now.
It's so crazy. So I do agree. I feel like the ritual of getting married, even though we didn't even get married at our wedding, that's the best part. Like, we waited a while later, we're like, oh yeah, I guess we should like go to the Justice of the Peace and like sign some papers or something. Yeah, it was just a party, a celebration, and I think that's really what it was about. It wasn't about the paper and it wasn't about all the legal stuff. It was really a commitment in love. And when I met you 15 years ago, you said true love is investing in another spiritual growth, and I would have never guessed this wild ride and that the vows that we shared about doing it all backwards, from sinners to saints, like, whoa.
I think there are two big takeaways right here already. And I think the first one is that you can have whatever type of relationship it is that you want. You don't have to fit in a box. You don't have to get married. You don't have to say yes when someone proposes to you. You don't have to do hardly anything.
And you don't have to wait for the man to propose.
Yeah, I mean, Britt definitely, and even though I said no, so you can still stay with it. The other part is that it's so important to be honest. I said no because either I wasn't ready, I didn't feel like it was right at the time for the relationship. It wasn't. And so I said no, despite the fact that I'm super into Britt. I mean, we spend every moment together planning businesses and, working out together and literally everything. If we could do it, we did it together. And so she was already such a big part of my life and I already cared about her a ton. But when she suggested that, it was definitely a no. And so I wasn't like, yeah, we can do it.
It wasn't a 7 or above.
It wasn't at that time. It just wasn't on my radar. I didn't really understand what happens when you invest everything into a relationship, when you really just go ahead and say, okay, this is something that could be long term, and not looking at it as you're already semi-escaping. Because I think the mistake that a lot of us make is that we're always kind of one step out of the relationship. There are people who will be in a relationship, like, oh, I'm gonna see what my options are, or when that person comes by and they're good looking, it's like we're like a magnet to it. And biologically, some of us, it's hard to deal with. I mean, beautiful people are beautiful. Whatever attracts us. But like when you have a real relationship, you're not as interested in that anymore. Like those thoughts just tend to go away. And if you are having thoughts like that, it's definitely something to begin to talk about. It's definitely something to become aware about in your relationship and be like, oh man, there's some issues going on. I need to head these off now, or I need to tell my partner something.
Yeah,
like,
you never know. They might be into threesomes.
Just be honest. Like it's seriously. And again, whatever thing you want to create for you is up to you. And I think having that power is so freeing.
I totally agree. And speaking of power, this is like we always like come in with a plan and we talk about all kinds of crazy stuff. But I was just sharing this with my girlfriend at lunch today. In the very beginning of our relationship, for a long time, I felt like you had this power over our relationship. Like if I'm like under Chris, I'm under his shadow, like I need to make sure that he loves me and like that I'm doing all the right things and blah, blah, blah. And I like it was this weird, like I put it there. And what I told my friend today is that all I need from him now is to move over because we're on the same level and I'm taking up a lot of beautiful space.
Oh my gosh, it's interesting when you're talking about how you used to feel and feeling the other person sort of in front of you or feeling like they kind of maybe hold all the power. Whenever I hear something like that, now some relationship dynamics, people do that and it's intentional. And if you're
empath narcissist, get the fuck out.
If you're in one of those kind of relationships, that can be a big problem. But when you do it unintentionally, when it's something that's kind of built in, like Britt was doing, what's interesting about it is that that's almost always a fear that's hiding itself.
Yeah, fear of being unlovable, of not good enough, like all the things.
So a lot of times when you're in a relationship with somebody and they are constantly nagging at you, or they become attached very quickly, or they are angry for you doing certain things, sometimes that has, and most of the time, it has nothing to do with you. Oftentimes, it is totally about how they feel. Most people are semi-narcissists to some degree. Some people just take it to an extreme and screw up a lot of other people. But we're all self-centered. We're all self-absorbed because we have to be. I mean, that's how this works. Like if I didn't think about myself, it'd be hard to make it through the day. Like I wouldn't brush my teeth.
Yeah, self-discovery.
Yeah, you are the center, but it always depends on if that's at the expense of someone else. And so there's always a healthy thing of like, I love myself, I'm confident. Like that doesn't mean you're a narcissist. But figuring out that you have those fears and being able to openly talk about them, or going back again to honesty, and being able to share that with your partner and be like, you know what, I think when you leave, it makes me feel this way. I don't know why that is. I don't know what that is, and be vulnerable, be open, because if you can't have an honest conversation, the relationship's already over. I mean, it's already ended. So many people are like, well, I can't talk to them about that. They're going to get upset. Let them be. Let them be upset. Like at least you get the honest stuff out. That way you don't, because if you don't, it ends up leading to resentment. And then you have this like long-term thing where you just hate the person. And you see them. It's like with the people that go to jobs that they hate, and they wake up every morning, they're like, I can't believe I'm in this life still. It's like that kind of feeling. So if you can't just tell your partner whatever it is that's on your mind, and maybe you need to learn how to structure it correctly. This is not about just being an asshole. You're not always coming in hot and why are you doing this? Why? That will never work. Like people don't really adjust or change to anger. It has to be something where you're just telling them it's coming from the heart. It's coming from a place of love. Like this is not to offend them. This is not to make them upset. This is to explain to them how you feel and how can we move forward.
It makes me think of our first date where we just sat in the truck and talked all about our darkness, our demons, our fears, our like, here's the fucked up shit that happened to me. I don't know.
Everybody
that was
let
like
it
the
out.
weirdest first date I've ever been on in my life. And we cried, and then we made out, and then like we never left each other after that. And I think that's what set our relationship apart from anything that failed before, was that it started with open and honest communication, where if you can't tell the person that you're signing up for to be with the rest of your life the truth and how you really feel, I can't tell you how many women I coach that just lay it on me and tell me all the things they want to tell their partner and how mad they are. And I always ask this question, well, have you told them that? No, I haven't. No wonder you're resentful and there's problems. Like, you have to be able to communicate. And that's something that we're going to be teaching a lot at our upcoming couples retreat.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
I'm so pumped. We finally pulled the trigger. The Evolved Couples Retreat is going down in Destin this November. I know it's only 2 months away, but we've been dreaming of it all year. And when the time was right, the universe was asking for it. Everyone at Hair Love Retreat was like, wow, seeing us together and how we operate. And even at the Goddess Retreats that I host, the reason why we're doing this couples retreat is because so many people kept asking us, how do you guys do this? You're so happy. You're so supportive. You guys are, all the things. And we had no intention of ever teaching about it. But it's so funny how it all comes full circle. And me wanting to empower the women realizing that they go home on this new high vibing level of like badassery, and their partner's like, who are you? How do I get there? I'm still stuck in the past. I'm still hurt. And so ultimately this couples retreat is to help evolve the way that we communicate. And that is the simple tip that we're going to give you today. It's called walkie-talkie and updating the rules. I guess it's like a 2-part tip, but when they go together hand in hand, it's like the ultimate get you on the same page kind of thing. Yeah,
it took forever for me to realize that we saw things very differently. And it goes back to like we have 2 different minds. You're extremely creative, you can be extremely visual, and sometimes I'm more linear, more logical. And because we think differently, a lot of times we're saying the same things, but the other person doesn't hear it because we're not using the right language for them. So you have to remember, when you talk to somebody, you're not talking for you. You're talking so that they can understand.
Ooh, say that again for those in the back.
So you have to be in a space where you're listening to them, because they will give you the words that you need to say back. Listen to your partner. The idea that you can continuously talk and be in a relationship is crazy. Like, you have to spend so much more time listening so that you can get a feel for where things are. And what we figured out, because we started going on these walks, we started going on walks at night after Britt was done at the salon. Back in the day, she'd be done, it'd be late nights. It'd be
like midnight.
Midnight, 11 p.m., late. So so our whole sleeping schedule was messed up. And so what we ended up doing was, when she got off, I knew that there was going to be a lot to say because it's a salon. I mean, people are telling Britt things left and right. And the things that you hear in a salon are different than you hear in any other kind of environment.
And I worked so much back then that most of my day was apart from you. So that was like our intimate time to get to reconnect and say, like, here's what's been going on in my world.
Yeah, and what I learned, so we go on these walks. It's so that we can talk to each other. These are where we have the conversations. Our conversations do not happen face to face. For a lot of people, when they get intensified, when they get angry about something, when they even get passionate about something, they may be feeling a lot of joy. Sometimes it can be too intense for the other person. It can be a lot, and people can get on the defense mode. And when you're in a conversation, the worst part to start from is when the other person is defensive, because then they're not hearing you. They've already gone into block mode.
Literally, my girlfriend at lunch said this exact, she's like, Chris has taught me this thing, and it was that right there. Like, if you see defensiveness in your relationship conversation, just in the conversation, and come back when you are, coming from the heart and not the head.
Yeah, so you have to stop it. You have to stop immediately and just put the conversation down. My mom used to always say this thing, and it's probably one of the most genius things I've heard her ever say. And she always would ask me, because I like to be argumentative, I can't help it. And it's one of those things. I can't help myself. And she would always ask me, do you want to be happy or do you want to be right? And back then, I always decided, well, I want to be right. What the hell? Well, who cares about the other stuff? I'm right. It doesn't matter. And what I realized getting older is that I want to be happy. I literally don't care about being right. There's no one coming and giving me a, hey, you were right more often times award. There's no certificate hanging in the office.
I'll print you one.
Oh, there we go, baby. I appreciate that. But when you get into a confrontation, a verbal confrontation with somebody, and you get heated, and then you both end up just fighting for forever, you have one of two choices. Typically, people either run away, and it's horrible, and it feels bad, and then both people kind of go with their tail between their legs, and or they end up having sex about it. And if you're one of the couples that have sex about it, hey, keep arguing. But if you're not, you have to come up with a new approach. You have to figure out, like, oh man, that didn't work for me. So next time I won't do that again. I'll figure out what does work and how I can talk to them in a way so that they understand.
So walkie-talkie really is designed to, walkie-talkie, whatever. It is designed to get you guys out of your own comfort zone. Like, you're not sitting on the couch in front of the TV. Most importantly, you're not stuck with your head on your phone. You're actually talking and engaging and creating the intimacy that so many women feel like they lack from their partner, is just being heard or understood. And so we did these hour-long walks and realized that as we were talking, we were sharing back and forth what we wanted more out of life, what we wanted out of our own personal goals, what we wanted out of our relationship goals, where we wanted to go and what our dreams were together and how could they merge, because we were doing totally different businesses at the time. You were in real estate and I was doing hair, and we didn't we always knew we wanted to work together even from the beginning, but that didn't start happening until the elevated life really was born, and we knew we were meant to teach. But until then, it was just kind of like, well, I want to grow my hair salon and I want to do this, and you were figuring out all the, you had your own dreams. And so what we learned, and this is the biggest secret, this is your takeaway. So if you're with us this far, this is the golden nugget, and maybe you've already had plenty of them thus far, but the thing that changed the game was once we realized that we were sharing things that we wanted to be different or similar in our relationship, we realized that we shouldn't wait for 1 year or until things go wrong or things blow up to actually talk about what we want out of our life and out of our relationship and what we need out of each other. So we started doing that every single night, talking and sharing and dreaming together. And what we then realized is that every single week, it's so important to check in with each other and what we call updating the rules. So every week we check in and we update the rules by asking, is there anything you need more of or less of? Have we been hanging out with too many people? Are we overscheduled? Have we been working too much? How's our sex life? How's the food we've been eating? Have we been spending too much money or XYZ? And so updating the rules every single week just makes it so that resentment actually gets derailed before it builds into something that is a big fight over the toilet lid.
Yeah, and the other part about this is what's important is to take the emotion out of the conversation. This isn't an emotional conversation. This isn't like a Mayday, things have been bad for a long time, because you're adjusting every week. You can course correct. You can say, oh man, we've been doing this too much. I'm drained. We have to start doing it this way. Or what do you think about doing these things instead? Or maybe we go get groceries on Monday instead of Sunday. It's thinking through all those little details that's going to make your life so much easier. And because you start to actually know how your partner feels. And so when you make decisions on your own, you can always now kind of keep them with you because you've heard them talk long enough. You know where their moments are where they don't like. You know what kind of friends they can be around. You know if they're a person that needs more time to rest, or if they're a person that wants to just gung-ho and just do everything. And you start to kind of be able to adjust yourself so that you're not constantly knocking into each other.
I feel like you were just describing our personalities.
It's true.
I like people.
Yeah, and I like the aloneness.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. I think that's what's so cool is, in the tarot, the Lover's card is when we see it, we're like, oh, sex and like partners. But what it ultimately stands for is total and complete, like, I stand on my own feet. I know who I am. I have a strong sense of developed understanding of self. I have my own integrity, my own boundary, my own personality, likes, dislikes, all the things. And from that place of wholeness, then we enter into a union with another whole being. And that's when we can create this divine dance between the partners and that blissful experience. But until you come to the relationship whole, it's going to be really hard. And one person's always going to be carrying a little bit more weight than the other, or making a little bit more room for, okay, well, let's just give them space for growth because they don't want to heal their trauma. But I'm trying to work on it. So it's really a delicate balance, and it starts with you taking responsibility for what you bring to the table.
Yeah, and also being able to really be able to ask your partner the right questions, be able to ask them things, because the deepest level of intimacy is always going to be understanding. It is by far the deepest level that you can get, because
you're on a roll today.
When you understand the other person, you're touching them in a way no one else can touch them. The worst feeling that someone has is to feel misunderstood, to feel like no one gets them, to feel sort of like out on the edge of everything. It feels great when you're loved and accepted and hugged and all those great feelings. And you do that always through being able to listen to them and then ask questions so that they can be more specific about it to get you to understand. When the person on the other side of you that you care about is talking and you don't get what they're saying, ask them about it. Ask them to explain more. Ask them about what their dreams are. Ask them about where they want to go in life. Ask them about what turns them on. Ask them about what they find pleasurable. What's their favorite food? What would they like to do on their birthday? You have to start asking those questions because you don't automatically know. What do you want to do on your birthday? I see you smiling.
No, actually, you already know what I want to do for my birthday. And by the way, 1 month countdown. But I was just thinking, I want to ask you a question. I want to ask you what you're most excited about for this upcoming Evolved Couples Retreat, because at lunch, my girlfriend said to me, because she's come to multiple of our goddess retreats, she said she was talking to you at one point and you said, I wasn't into this retreat idea. When Brit wanted to do these goddess retreats, I wasn't on board. But she had said, now that you've seen 3 of them and you see the healing, the transformation, or I don't know what you see, or maybe you just like being around a lot of women. I'm not really sure. But something has shifted and you are ultimately they came up to you and asked you to, hey, will you do a couples retreat? Our men need what you are teaching. And so I want to know, what are you excited about? What do you have envisioned for this? Where do you stand on all this? This is new for, we've been hosting the women's goddess retreats, but the couples retreat was a universal request. And so we're just showing up and serving.
Yeah, I think that when the guy figures out the new paradigm, because we're seeing it, and maybe it's because of the women that we're around. Like, we're typically around really powerful women. I mean, we're around people who are making a difference, who are not afraid of things, who are just these go-getter type mentalities. And so when you're around that, it's different for a guy to be around that, because when you think about how my generation learned to be, it came out like that sort of 50s generation where the moms all stayed at home and the husbands went out and worked on the road or worked at the factory down the block. And so I learned about relationships coming out of that area. And this is going to be a new definition. So it's going to have to take a new guy's mindset. So I'm really excited to see what happens to men. What happens to men who are able to empower their wives? What happens to the women once they feel empowered and supported and they're able to have conversations and they're having this incredible sex life and everyone is just kind of vibing at this higher level? Like, what is it that those people come out and are able to create in the world? What example do they set for their children? And what sort of generational crap that has been going on can we finally eliminate? That way people are enjoying each other and are happy. I think that's what people want so bad in this world. They want to be loved. They want to feel inside what it's like to look into someone's eyes and be like, oh my God, we love each other. This is the best feeling. It's like what we're all looking for. It's that love. It's like, and once you find it like the how big the gift is unbelievable. I mean, it's something you can't put into words. It's such a feeling that you get that you always feel like you're glowing. And it doesn't even matter because you look at that person and you're like, they're my home. I feel so safe and I feel so secure and I feel like I could just be myself.
I know it always breaks my heart to hear when couples don't feel like they can talk or don't feel safe or loved or supported in their dreams, or who they can feel like, hey, here's my whole authentic self. Check me out. Like, I'm a crazy sparkly unicorn witch, and they be okay with it, So it really does, like, there's a soft spot in me that thinks, like, I remember 15 years ago, the people that were in their shoes. I remember the relationship. I remember the struggle and the challenge and not speaking on each other's language and understanding that we operate different and that my PMS week has nothing to do with you. You know what I mean? Like,
guys are going to learn so much at this retreat. We're going to blow them away with the knowledge about their woman.
I'm excited. I feel like that's ultimately what it is. It's like, women, bring your men because it's for them, like that's what this is about. Oh, we've been empowering all the goddesses and they're like next level, and we want the men to be there too. We want this to be balanced. That's the problem, is that it's been a masculine driven world out of logic and reason and, power and force, and it's been so imbalanced. So as women are on the rise, we have to be mindful that we can't just like take over and be like, fuck the men. That's what like feminism tried to do, but it was just it was anger. It was out of like frustration and not out of true understanding and love, and like let's find the common ground here. And ultimately I think that's what it came down to every time we would fight. It's like, how do we find the common ground? Because we didn't sign up for this relationship to fight. We signed up for this relationship for fun and connection and love. And that's ultimately when I realized I was ignoring you for a solid 24 hours and like, look how tough I can be. Watch, I won't even say anything to you. And inside, my internal like voice was just saying, I just love him so much. I just want to give him a hug. I just wish he would talk to me. Like, what is that? Like, what game are we playing? And what I realized is that people play a lot of games in relationships, and that's not what it's made for.
I think it's because so many people are afraid of being hurt. And I think that if you've been in a relationship, you've been hurt. I mean, the only successful the one you've had is the one that you're currently in. I mean,
you've probably been hurt in that one.
Yeah, and so it's so often we build these such thick walls around our heart that it keeps the bad stuff out, but it doesn't let any good stuff in. And this retreat and this talk has been about letting the good stuff in. That's why you learn how to communicate better. That's why you figure out what your partner's needs are and let them be on the same level as you. Like, walk forward together. The idea of us walking is about walking forward together. It's about making a vision in front of us that is our like excellent future. It's us talking it through. It's us saying, well, how do we put that into play? How do we make that happen? Who do we need to meet? What do we need to read? What retreat do we need to go to? It's having those conversations so that we can figure out where we are and where we want to go together.
I want to go to the Evolved Couples Retreat together with
yes.
you.
I'll be there.
Yay! I'm so excited. So just to give you a couple of details, we'll be in Destin, Florida the week of November 9th through 13th. So of course that encompasses 11/11. What? So we'll be doing some powerful rituals of recommitment and, really future casting our dreams together. Well, obviously you and your partner, but all of us combined is going to be a powerful sacred circle of supporting each other's growth, other's love. And hello, we're doing it in the most luxurious freaking beachfront villa mansion. So we'll be able to walk right past our little pool and hot tub down to the beach, and it's literally right there. And that to me, that when I was visualizing and like, okay, we're gonna create this couples retreat, like what is it gonna entail? What is it gonna embody? And just high class luxury, like all of that was the thing that was at the top of my head.
Romance, everything that shouts romance.
Yeah, like walks on the beach, like maybe. I'm a mountain girl, okay? I love the mountains and I love the trees, but when I think romance, I think those romantic, like, strolls, and I'm just so excited. We're getting the private chef in line, like, I'm coming up with the goodie bags, which, if you guys have followed my goddess retreats in the past, like, I go hard. We're going to be sharing the 5 love languages with you, and mine is gifts, okay? So you'll get a taste of what my love is like, and I'm excited about curating all the little special details and rituals and just new ways of approaching life, not just relationships but life, to be able to see love in every moment.
It's going to be incredible.
I'm so pumped. So of course, if you want to check that out, you can go to theelevatedlifeclub.com/retreat and you can see all the details. We only have space for 8 couples. Hey, listen, it was really hard trying to find a freaking luxurious mansion that checked all my boxes and only had king suites, but we found it.
Oh, I'm so excited. Come if you're ready for this. If your relationship needs revitalizing, if you say, I want to really create a great future, I know I've got a good partner, let's spend the time, let's figure out how to do this, let's move forward to the future, come with us. Come be with us. This is going to be an incredible experience.
I'm so excited. And if you had some golden nugget takeaways, let us know by tagging us over on social media at the Elevated Life Club, or you can tag us individually. And we so appreciate your love and support here on the Elevated Life podcast. We will catch you guys next week. Peace. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Elevated Life podcast. Want more? Join us at theelevatedlifeclub.com for mindset upgrades, lifestyle hacks, and spiritual tools to elevate your soul.
Each month features a new masterclass, meditation, yoga practice, and more to help you transform your life one step at a time.
Come join the 7 or Above Club.